dance rather than, oh, thank you. So anyway, I'm going to just ask everybody, and I've contacted the 6 of you who are our featured guests today, to say that instead of reading a bio, we're going to put bios in the chat. If you sent me yours, I will add them shortly. If you have yours right accessible, you can just go ahead and drop it in the chat. But I just wanted to invite anyone who is able to share a screen, and Angela was going to make sure that we could do that. And then some of you who sent your work to me, I'm going to try to do the screen sharing for you. So this makes this Zoom just a little bit trickier than a regular reading. And I guess we'll just ask for flexibility in how we manage it all as we go along. But I'm really excited to see the connections that you've made. And in your introduction, what I had asked everyone to do, and there's different ways of going about this, but introduce us to specifically who you are as a poet and artist that makes connections between them, how those connections are made, what kind of art you like to make, or as you're showing art, a little bit about the process. I think that's one of the things that would help other poets, to maybe join in this practice. And I thought we'd just go alphabetically, which I have only run by Grace, but she knows that we were planning to go first with her work. And Grace, if you'll do your introducing, and then I just need to know if you want me to show the website first or the individual pieces first.
Just the pieces, please.
Okay.
So are you going to, I don't know how to share the screen, so I hope you do.
Yes, I'm going to try to do that. So I have your pieces all lined up on the bottom of my screen. So let me just.
Okay, I'll just start. I'll tell you, I'll just say a sentence or two, and then I'll tell you when to start.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a writer, and painting and art has come very late to me in my life. I am not an ekphrastic painter, meaning that I don't write from a text, but today I tried to find poems that linked and connected to the pieces. So that's what I'm going to do. And I use acrylic palette for everything, and then I use all kinds of things on top of it. So you can show the first one if you will, Kathy, if you can.
Okay. All right. Let me see if I can.
I have been doing work only since 2019 with COVID, and I have 80 pieces hanging in people's houses, whether they like it or not. So I do not inhibit myself, because if it's not fun, I don't do it.
Well, and I'm lucky enough to be connected to you on Facebook, and it's been amazing to see all the different things that you've created since the beginning of COVID. You've been so prolific. So here's what I think is the first one. Did that share with anybody yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Well, the poet A.R. Ammons once said, if you're nothing, you can do anything. Who has the credentials? My God, no one has those better credentials. Well, that is up. That is the last one. That we'll just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Are you sure?
It doesn't matter how they go up. This is acrylic palette with text, beads, and collage, paper and pen. And I found a poem that could go with it. It's called Language. What's there to say about the rose and the dew inside the rose? Who can see the simplicity of hidden light, the unmarked flower, light, dew, rose, do not know the names for their slight lives. That's why we watch in silence without a need for speech. The sun doesn't know why it's called sun. No matter what is said, we learn by stillness. All that's beautiful will grow. Thank you, Kathy. And then if you can pop up the next one.
Mm-hmm. So.
Nothing more to be said about this one.
Okay. So give me 1 second, because I I have to start over with
I've
the.
never been shown from Bethany Beach before.
Okay, it says I'm still screen sharing, but
No, not a new one.
okay.
You are brave.
Well, I tried. I was lucky with the first one. It went up
Do you have
smoothly. Let me try
to
again.
delete it
Okay,
before another will go up if you're on a Mac?
probably. Stop share. Okay, let me do that. Stop share
Yeah.
and then start again. I think that's probably okay. All right, is this one okay for next?
Not, yeah, let's go up. We don't have one yet.
Oh. Sorry.
This is migrations. And if you are a mother, you know that the only road there is away. So it's an acrylic palette with pieces of text from a book I wrote called Migrations. It has pen, all kinds of things on it, and photographs of antique dolls by the great photographer Mary Ellen Long. And I had written a book of poems called Migrations, and I cut up a book. Don't tell anyone. So I found a poem that was not in the book, but goes with this work, actually. Migrations. Open wide the windows from the high tower, caught as I am in midair. Green still stands outside. Inside, the children's empty boots left beside the door. In my dream, those voices coming up the hill toward me, children clamoring in with bundles larger than the heart. Let us have lunch. Where's the milk? Can I tell you a story? How I stood beneath the stairs and lowered my eyes so as not to cry. I think that this poem, I wanted to show a lot of confusion and angst and all of the feelings that aren't on Hallmark cards.
Yeah.
So you can delete that one now, Kathy, and go to the next one.
Excellent.
What is the next one?
I think the mathematical looking one.
Is it blue?
Blue and red and gold.
Yeah, that's actually, those are sailboats.
Okay.
That's why I'm not a landscape painter.
But I love it. Wait 1 sec. Okay.
This was for a professional sailor, and I tried to get motion, and I wanted to show weathering, so I used hard knives to cut the surface and scrape the acrylic. And I wanted to show the wind going in many directions. The poem I found for this is actually about a friend of mine who's a nurse, and she goes all over the world helping children in Peru and orphanages in Africa. And the poem mentions a cactus plant she gave me as a symbol of our friendship. Voyages. This poem never went to Africa to sleep on the floor of the tent or to treat children for scurvy. This poem didn't even get as far as Mexico, where it could nestle under the white, hot sun in the warm, brown sand. In fact, this poem's never been anywhere at all and has led a rather sheltered life. But then again, daring comes from within, as a famous poet once said. And like the red flower blooming on an otherwise green, prickly stalk, flames up to the top, radiant and brilliant, as one who dares to give away the precious pebbles of her life and someone else who dares to take them. So I guess that can be removed. I think it's just,
And we had a fourth one in case we had time. I'm not sure where we are, but let me go ahead and at least
it's,
show that
okay.
one.
It's acrylic. Okay, this is acrylic and pen. And I spent most of the time in 2019 alone because of the COVID. And so this is called COVID haiku. Points on a map, growing smaller now, window, porch, street. And that's it for me. Right now I'm working with industrial materials, and the last piece I did, I covered with bronze screening, which makes it, I call it industrial impressionism. And I'm using a lot of, these are the first ones I've ever done out of about 60 paintings. So I've gone much more into experimentation. These are my conventional ones. Thank you very
They're
much.
beautiful. And Grace, I just wanted to close your set with something you said when we were talking about the connections between your poetry and your art. And you said that you didn't create them, one-to-one, but you said something about them coming from the same energy. And I thought that was a really interesting phrase. And
Oh,
just
thank you.
wanted to share it with
Everything that we do comes, you can put anything together that comes out of you because it's all from your well. And that's what has freed me up in painting and in words. Thank you, Kathy, for remembering that. And thank you
Absolutely.
very much, the Society, Virginia, Poetry Society of Virginia.
Thank you. And Grace, momentarily, I will put your link into the chat and your bio. So I'll catch up on that.
Okay, if anyone wants vertigo, they can go to my gallery link. Bye.
Okay, thank you. All right, Angela, you are up. And that will give me a break from sharing. You can do the sharing for your work, right?
Yes, absolutely. And thank all of you for being patient with me. I think this is fascinating because I think everyone who shares is probably going to share something really different. And I had two kind of pieces put together, and this one, if I can get it to go. There, that's what I need to do. This should work.
For the boys. Some
Yes.
would say, I owe you nothing more. My body has already soothed your fragile esteem. But I read of orphaned bull elephants, swept up by helicopters, transplanted to savannas far from their homes, without fathers or uncles to teach them how to be grown. Testosterone lifting their feet from the earth, stomping in the hoods of cars, their bodies strong beyond their minds.
Well, that wasn't it, but it's quit working. There it goes. Okay.
Except forgive the young boy. Only a name tag bearing any semblance to home.
If I can find it, I'll
Blue
stop
jeans
it.
his mother chose just for him. T-shirts.
So I'll say this, I guess. Apparently, I'm having massive technical difficulties today. And maybe that's part of what happens when we try to bring these things together. But I'll say with those pictures, that is a poem for the boys. And what I think that the pictures do for it when it actually shares correctly and does right is people are able to see more about where the poem comes from, because I went to a military high school, and that's a really different experience that most people didn't have. And so when they read poems about it, it's really hard for them to imagine what that is. And so the pictures, I think, allow people to see that. And I'm sorry that it didn't work. I will show you this other one very quickly. And maybe this one does not have a recording on it, and I might be able to work it a little better. So this happened, this whole little piece happened in around January 6th of 2021, because I really lost my capacity for words. I felt like the language that I inherited was very inadequate, and I really couldn't understand how to poem. And so I started making pictures and thinking about who I wanted to be and how I wanted to define that, and just trying to find words again. And I would call this a visual poem. And however you read it is correct. And then I started thinking about how we get information. And this one is called Distribution Cycle American Mythos. And it's just remnants of cards and candy wrappers and maps and all sorts of things like that. But if you can see, for me, I was thinking about how far back information goes and how we're told stories as though they're a fact, and what truth is and how that information comes across. This is one that, again, it was how are we getting information, and this one is really part of a poem. It's a series of images with stanzas and talks about again how we're told stories and what we're not told. So this one is about a grandmother and a child asking for the story. Forget the rabbit, she says, I don't remember. The way of hawk, I have no between. The moon is too young to know the threat of shadows. And so I just kept going and like thinking about fairy tales. This one is if Cinderella is a Labrador, fairy godmother, a hunter dodging doe, and a titmouse has the slipper. So it's just like, what if Cinderella was not a young blonde white stepdaughter? What would that tale have been like? And then I went back into some 1929 encyclopedias and started doing erasures and images and seeing what the information was beneath the information. And then I did somewhere I wrote my own definitions. But so those are some of the ones I brought to share. And I apologize, I'm not usually this technically challenged. Right, Kathy?
Right. That was lovely, though. Anyway.
Interesting.
Oh, Benny, I'm just putting your link in the chat, and I believe you're next in the alphabet, or did I? H, K, K, M. Yeah. Okay, Benny, it's you. Benny, can you hear me?
Yes, I was just
Okay.
talking, wasn't I?
Okay, that's fine.
I was just running my mouth. I'm sorry. Of course, the picture I wanted to post disappeared, but let me see. Let me minimize this.
It's really not the easiest thing to juggle all the different screens when
Oh,
you're.
it's in photos. There we go.
Okay.
That's where it would be.
Yeah.
All right, let me share this now.
Whoa.
Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Yes.
So I've been writing and painting for to quantify it, I can't even remember. I feel like I've never, there hasn't been a day since I could move my hands with an instrument, been doing something. My influences sort of come from music and specifically hip hop and jazz and graffiti. And I've always, tried to find myself in my work. And the more I paint, the more I express myself on canvas and with my writing, everything that I kind of do, if this makes sense, is sort of a mirror for myself and almost a self-portrait, if that makes sense. So I have a poem that I will read that sort of represents this image of that sort of self-portrait perspective. We are sables, every individual a story, a transcripted figure imposed against skin. We are edge pushers, dialoguing with passing whispers of mothers' drums and speaking her language. We are diaspora. We defy depth, reach out through roads, freeing songs from suffrage. We bend space. We leave it new with blues constricting its distance. We leave nothing behind. We digest the unknown, reinvent arm and leg. We live now. No dead monkeys, limbless from project to project. We wear this city like kente, saying words, dragging mud into our mouths. We made you believe in the other side. We dissolved into bayous, returning black like ancient grandmothers, crying in pantomime, revealing ourselves to touch, to men, to hands, to earth, just us, beginning anew, and dreams. And some will be the story. Others will tell the story. Some will color dominion as math men with needles in their futures and woven tongues adding and subtracting breath until day passes through knitted speech like fire, like sun, add burn to us. We saturate fiction, making keepsake stories under the blues of glory and rhythm and rhythm and rhythm is watched and not heard. It is watched and seen and felt, and it is a tenement to a temple, making adobe in dope made veins, transcendence of oracle conduits between shimmy and shake. He speaks with tenor soul like urban astronauts. He plays his story whole in half notes. I didn't know we were so poor. Powdered milk was just as good as the real thing, I thought. With a teaspoon of sugar tasted like regular milk, just a little gray in color. Hand-me-downs weren't that bad either. Well, they were because mine had shoulder pads. I had 4 older sisters. And we believed we were all powerful, but powerless at the same time. We let music guide us. We trusted our mothers without question, but everyone else had to earn it. We seldom let anyone see us cry. We cry alone. We two-stepped on the dance floor. We danced in bed. We learned too often how to be men from boys. We cherished the visible. We walked and ran from pit bulls. We invented love. We embraced hate. We insulted each other's mothers. We measured girls' hips. We lied about which girl we would kiss and touch. Our conversations went in circles. We imagined the cars one day we would drive, women we would one day marry, the sizes of our homes, the dogs we would breed. We sat at the top of the hill, dreadlocked with ice plants. We sat above our rented homes, talking shit and eating candy. And this is just a measure of a rhythm that we have all felt and will feel forever. Thank you. Thank you.
Is that it for you?
Yes, thank you.
Beautiful. I hope the link that you sent that I just posted in the chat, does that have many of your paintings on it?
No.
No. Well, other than Facebook, is there someplace else that,
Yes, what I'll do is I'll post my website and my Instagram in the chat, and then people can access it that way.
that would be great, because I love this piece, but you have also, like Grace, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it seems like become more and more prolific with your paintings
Yes.
through the pandemic. And I've just really enjoyed seeing so many of them. So I was
Oh,
hoping that
thank
people
you.
would get to see more.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Derek, are you there?
I'm there.
Okay,
I'm just
I thought
moving
so.
stuff around.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna invite you to go next and hope that everything works out well for you.
Thank you. I'm not going to talk about it too long, but yeah, I've lost a couple of laptops this week, and I might permanently lose everything I've done in the last 3. Laptop has also crashed. This one left, and that should give me enough time to transfer everything to a hard drive. So I'm I'm little. I don't have access to everything I want to have access to, but because of the wonders of sending things out to people, I do have through email contacts and things I've submitted to. I have access to some of the things, but just I thought I'd sort of talk about process first of all, and I'm
Okay,
interested to
that's
see that just
great.
everybody else who's presented so far. Yeah, everybody else who's presented so far is a painter. Yeah, is that okay, Kathy?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Uh,
I just wanted to tell you that on occasion you've been cutting out a little bit. So I'm hoping that that doesn't continue, but just in case, if I go like this, maybe turn off your screen for a minute just to like let the Wi-Fi catch up.
Yeah, okay. I might have some issues with connectivity. I don't think that's the laptop itself.
Okay, actually you're doing well now.
Okay, I'll slow down. I think that might help too. So in terms of process, as a visual artist, I'm a photographer. And mostly, but not entirely, I'm a documentary photographer, meaning that I do also try and do mixed media, full-on art pieces through photography. But for example, I just had a show, 3-month show at the Black History Museum documenting the statues and the removal of the statues in Richmond. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try and hold up to the screen. Can you see that if I do that? I don't know how well that works.
Yes.
So I can't actually see. So this, for example, is in a photograph of people in front of the Lee statue when it was being sort of, first of all, daubed with the graffiti. This is the Soldiers and Sailors Monument when it was being taken down. This is, I'm going to rush through these. I know
Don't rush so much though. You got to hold it still so we can see it.
Okay. So this is when the Stonewall Jackson, which was the first statue to come down in Richmond. And you can see people, this guy has a bulletproof vest on. They don't know how it's going to be received, but they're taking down Stonewall Jackson. I was here to document all this stuff, and I did it very thoroughly. For example, here is Christopher Columbus being fished out of the lake where the protesters dumped him. And so this was an elaborate book, and how it combined writing with the photography, with the documentary photography, was that it was a nonfiction book. There are a couple of poems in that book, but basically it's a book of nonfiction, essay writing, short journalistic essay, personal writing, and stuff like that. But I've been combining photography and writing for several years now, since I took up photography seriously. And usually it's with poetry. I think it started seriously with this book, Streaker, where it's a combination of photographs, which I took over the course of a year, one book a week, one photograph a week for a year for a website I was contributing to, and also the April challenge, where I was writing a poem a day combined with a photograph. So I would deliberately set aside photographs and do a poem which went with it. And I did that all month. And then I put those together in a book. And I just looking for something very short I can read as an example, but I'm not sure I'm going to. These are all too long, I think. So, you know, so for example, I mean, just to show you what it looks like, here's a photograph of my wife. That's a reflection in the water. And then there's a poem about it next to it. And I've been doing that for years. And what I was going to read from was the book which I just finished on China in 1992, but I've lost it. I hope that the technicians can save it and I can get it back. But instead, what I'll do is I'll show some things from some websites. When Kathy sent out our I'm trying to share a screen and it's not working.
Okay. All right, just checking.
Okay. I hope this is going to work, this sharing screen thing. Oh gosh, desktop one. Because this laptop is new, it's got all kinds of weird things, and it's so I just thought clicking share screen would work, but it doesn't, does it?
Well, whatever is showing on your screen should show to us, but it has to be like the thing in front of you that you're looking at.
Yeah, it should, but it's saying permissions first of all.
You should have permission. Anybody who wants to share permission from Zoom, from me. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. And let me try that.
Derek, can you pop the website that you were trying to share from into the chat and let me see if I can share it, or Angela or one of us?
Yeah, maybe that would be an idea. If you go to somebody else, so we're not wasting time.
All right. Okay.
And then we'll sort of see if we can do that.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, I'll actually see if I can work out the permissions thing, which it's asking me to do. Yeah, because I just hit share screen and then it goes into all this other stuff, which it asks me to fill out all these things through system preferences.
Do you think it's because you got the new laptop, maybe?
I think it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a new laptop and it's not set up properly. And it's just telling me to open system preferences.
Okay, so just if you can just drop whatever information into the chat, we'll come back to you and I'll go to Tori.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Stop screaming so you guys don't have to hear all of that.
Okay.
Bedtime got a little messy when mommy locked herself away. It looks like they're finally down, so hopefully no one will try and sneak in. So I've been painting or drawing, any visual art medium, and writing and dancing since I was little. I can't remember not doing those things. I took ballet when I was younger. I was in we weren't allowed to call it dance at my church. Was in an interpretive movement group. It was dancing. Well, I started a group in college and was studying creative writing and painting in the bathtub so that I could wash away the paint splatters. So those things have always been part of me, part of my self-expression. And it became a lot more pronounced when I became artist in residence at a place in Alexandria called Convergence. So I started my residency. I was just writing. At that point, I was scared to death to speak in public. Something like this would have made me cry. And so they're like, you're going to do a reading just for people you know. And then there were like 60 people in the room. And that's when I started performing. And I was like, this makes me want to dance, because that's what I do on a stage. I don't talk, I dance. So I started working on a one-woman show since I'd finally gotten over my fear of talking in front of people, where I was performing poetry for about an hour and a half. I think I took a break in the middle, and dancing to some of the poetry. And then I had art all over the walls that I had painted while I was writing those pieces. So some of it was the same energy, like Grace said. And some of them, they specifically share the same name. Those paintings and poems, and those are the things I'll share tonight. Those are the things that are supercharged for me. A lot of it came out of therapy sessions, stuff I was working through there, or church services, or hard things with friends, or traumatic experiences in my life. That's where I end up writing and painting, and they share the same name. So I usually try to paste the poem on the back, because they are one and the same. I was painting at the same time I was writing, or I was writing and then immediately running to the canvas to decompress after writing. So I also did not get this stuff set up on screen, because I really hate most technology. So I'm going to hold up these paintings. Hopefully that will work.
Yeah.
And then I'll read them off of my paper that I have on top of the laptop.
Totally fine. And just hold them there long enough and still enough so that we can see them.
Yeah, I'll try to keep them propped up, because I
Okay.
paint big, so that wasn't really wise on my part. I will say, because these are supercharged subjects, I will issue a trigger warning. I'm going to be talking about pregnancy loss and sexual assault and current events from Friday. So just be forewarned. So this is the first one. Let's see. There we go. So this is all acrylic. This is the oldest piece. This is from probably 10 years ago. I think it was in my first and my second book. It's called I Mourn. I mourn the day of meeting, when I befriended the future orchestrator of my nightmares. I mourn that worst day of my young life, though I loved it then. I mourn the memories made solely in body, as the rest of me learned to disconnect and hide, the simplicity too early lost and sick complexity gained. Our split connection, I mourn it too, and the half I too willingly took for myself, all the blame and shame that were never mine to take. I mourn the day I finally learned its name. I mourn the subsequent years of silence and of sinking, hiding, pretending, wishing away a reality I couldn't wholly ignore. I mourn the years of bleeding sin not mine out of my skin and hoping I'd somehow feel clean. I mourn my keeper's life, how I've kept the secrets in a locket hanging above my caged heart and below my conscious mind with all the vividness of my dreams and nightmares of my days. I mourn my reintegrating self, the pain of being whole when I can't remember ever being whole before, the way the memories of body are now leaking into spirit and being lived all over again. I mourn the entirety of life, so totally unlived, my quarter century of existing more dead than alive. I mourn it in tears, in silence, in the shaking stillness of body. I mourn it in red, in black, in bruising blue, and splattered tones, in the electric scream of yellow. I've come to mourn the very air I breathe, what fills and propels me now, and even more so, that first breath after birth with which I declared my living. I mourn each of my moments from that first breath until that day of meeting. I mourn the child that was, the blue-eyed innocence. I mourn the child that died. I mourn because no one else ever noticed that she'd gone. This next one, I painted while living in Vermont when I experienced my first miscarriage. This one is called Quietly Broke the Dam. And in this instance, the painting came first. And then I named it and realized I had to write a poem about the title. Quietly broke the dam. With a pink line on a Tuesday afternoon, a spark ignited. The future changed by a wildfire, altering the terrain of plans and hopes. But then, on Friday, quietly broke the dam, with a trickle, then a flood to wipe the flames away, leaving the ground warm with memories of the heart that so rapidly had changed it. In the flames I'd heard it, the crying and the cooing, the giggling and the babbling, but after 3 days it was silent again. She was once again an only child, the new nursery still a guest room. I'm still a mother of one beautiful girl, but with hidden burn scars still tender to the touch. This last one's a little more raw. I usually never share work that I have just done, except for posting the painting on Instagram, which I hate doing, by the way, since I hate technology. So this one I painted on Friday. When I heard the news about Roe v. Wade, I had a very bad reaction. So I came home from the play date my girls were having, and I decided I need to rage paint. When I'm really at a loss for words, I paint. And it usually involves a lot of throwing paint. Tends to get very messy. So that's what this painting is from. Then later when I had calmed down, sitting in the backyards with my little girls, and finally had some words based on what I was hearing in our neighborhood. So this is the painting. This one is charcoal, acrylic ink, probably some pencil too. So this is called The Day Roe v. Wade Was Overturned. There's a crew across the cul-de-sac removing a tree, maybe two, from a neighbor's backyard. I can't see the saw and slice, but I can hear the rumble and the creak of losing limbs, of a separating core, of a widening gap in the ground where sovereign nobility was once rooted. So that's all. Thank you so much, Kathy, for asking me to share today.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate it. And the holding, since the paintings are big, the holding up worked quite well, I think. Don't you all?
Yeah, since I work so big, it tends to be all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michal, you have the floor, and I have your pieces to share. I just have to find that folder underneath it all. Give me 1 second while you go ahead and introduce yourself as a poet artist.
You're still muted.
Okay, here we go. Yes,
Yes.
I think so. So good evening, everyone. My name is Michal Mahgarafteh, and I'm originally from Israel. And it's actually a third language in our household, so that makes it a little bit harder to write poetry. I've been a poet for the last 20 years and artist for the last 20 years, I think for therapeutic purposes, more or less. So I connect with art and writing in two ways. And the first one in a way is that I write from sketches that I create during world travel. So for example, most of the poems in my latest collection, Fish Moon, are from sketches that I created during my last visit with my dad in Israel. So my dad taught history and biblical studies at Tel Aviv University. So all our travels were to historical sites because he always had a story to tell. And so my sketches, because everywhere I went, I sketched. I have a lot of journals with sketches of historical places in Israel. So I'm going to share a short poem because I know we're pressed on time, so I'm rushing a little bit. And in the poem, we are standing at the edge of Mount Olives in Jerusalem, overlooking the valley below. So I titled the poem Tissue.
Okay.
Walking.
I'm not sure if I have the right one. I have this one first.
Okay, so this is for the second section that I'm going to talk about what I do.
Okay, should I
with
go
my
back
mixed media. So just go back to my dad photo because I don't have my sketches with me.
Oh, I see it.
I'm in
Okay.
Alexandria. Yeah,
Mhm.
you can show, or you don't have to. So, okay, walking down Kidron Valley at Mount Olives was harsh on Abba, over 90 degrees, but he was determined to reach the slopes. Look at the beauty in the distance, he said, exhibiting his vast knowledge. The raw-cut tombs dated back to the 7th, even the 9th century BCE. Black goats grouped under a solitary olive tree. Its hollowed trunk stood plagues, greeted the sun and warriors over thousands of years. Listen, Abba continued, offering me his skeletal stories. But I didn't care about the arrival of the Messiah or the end of days prophecy taking place within the deepest tissue of the river below.
Very nice.
Let me see where my paperwork and you know how I can minimize it? Oh, there it is. Okay, very good. So I just need my notes. So the second poem is a little bit different, still staying with my dad, who was also a writer. Oh, okay.
Wrong
So,
one. Okay, no, it's all right. I'll get it.
Okay, so over the years, my dad, he gifted me short stories that he wrote, hand wrote for safekeep. So after his passing in 2019, I decided to photocopy all the manuscripts actually and use them with my mixed media art. And I think I did it because it helped me with the mourning process. I guess at the time I needed my dad closer more than ever after his passing because he died in Israel, it's too far, and I'm in America, and it was very difficult for me. So I wrote a poem about the process, and I included it in the collection in his memory, and I titled it Stay. Knowing by morning he'll be gone, I pull a box filled with handwritten manuscript he mailed over the years. Most of his life, he researched biblical characters like Salmon and Moses and Esther and Eve, chasing evidence of their existence. I copy his words on vintage paper, rip up text, glue on canvas, and stain in rustic hues. Imbued verses and riddles confront memory with the swirl of brush strokes.
So I apologize. I didn't get that up, and I have it, but I've lost my oh, I see what I need to do, I think.
Yeah, so I'm sharing two of the mixed media, and you can see as first layer, you can see here on the top, that's his handwritten manuscript right there on the top. And I used it as first layer. That's what I did with this one.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And the second one is also the same thing. I almost camouflaged his handwritten manuscript. It's just like it was with me, not with me. And it was so therapeutic. I will never forget the time that I wrote the book about him because I did it together. So together I went to the sketches for inspiration, and his words, it just spoke to me. So that's what I do. I write from sketches, world travel, and I travel a lot. And I also wrote a manuscript about collection about Morocco, which is my family is originally from Morocco. And I did the same thing. I wrote most of the poem inspired by the sketches that I took during my travel. So you can see here also on the left side in the middle, it's Hebrew text. That's his hand written manuscript right there. So I created about 100 of them, and they're on display at CEO Gallery in Norfolk.
Wonderful. Is that something you can see any of that online, or do you have to go to Norfolk to see it?
Well, I have a lot of them on my website and also in my Mitak Art also Instagram page. I have a lot of them there.
Can you put any of that, the links
Yes.
for any of that into the chat? That would be great.
Yes, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's fascinating just to hear everybody's different processes and just see the different ways that the connection is made, and it seems for everybody it's been different. So I mean, that's the beauty of it all. Derek,
Thank you.
were we able to, yes. So Angela, have you done anything yet? Should I just go ahead and try to share a screen for this, or? Okay. All right. So Derek, I'll start with the first link.
And I don't know if it'll work, but if it doesn't, I have gone through the permissions now on my laptop. It keeps asking me to redo it. So I don't know if it'll still work from my, from my
I
screen.
think it's going to work for me. Let me just get it so I can reach the share screen button.
Yeah, I put up 3 links there, 2 for a website.
Okay, so we'll start with this. Okay,
With the
so
photograph. Yeah. Yeah. So when Kathy asked me for a bio shot, I sent her several, which I had poems which went with. And the photograph that I took here, I took deliberately for this piece. In other words, I wanted a photograph of me looking kind of grizzled and confronting the camera, and to contrast with, because that's me over my shoulder too, at the age of 8 or something. and so it was a concept from the start, visually, that I wanted these two images of me, one now in a kind of unflattering way, and one, you know, sort of young. And I put this sonnet behind me on painted bricks. Now, the sonnet already existed. It's either the last or the second to last poem in my collection, Mutt Spirituals, and it was written quite separately, but I wanted something which was a self-portrait. And so I did these 2 pictures, and I did this with it. It's called For My Book of Hours. Here, this self, its house of permeable walls, this rust sky, its brawls of puff-bruised peach clouds. Hear the crows at dawn cry into shapes. Watch on a flat screen lawn, the leaves' shades play catch. Give me my own eyes, my own heart, avid for the waylays of light teasing its trove. Grant me what I have. Teach me to have it. It's 5-syllable lines, and it's just a poem which I associated with kind of like philosophy of life, and so I wanted to put it with a self-portrait. So that was one example of a kind of a mixed media piece. Kathy, can you go to the next one?
yes.
Yeah, okay. And I don't know if you could scroll over a bit so the poem is readable, and scroll down just a bit too. Yeah, my mother's flat iron. So this was a poem I wrote shortly after my mother died. I spent the last month of her life living in the same flat with her and taking care of her. And she urged me to go home, that my wife missed me. And I did, and she died 2 days later. And one of the things I took with me was this flat iron. And I don't know if I can read it as is because I've got people's faces over it. Kathy, could you actually move just a little bit way?
Let me
So I
see.
could.
Okay. So so maybe if I don't have it on full screen, I can move it over. Yeah. How's
Okay,
that?
that's great. So yeah, so this was another one which I conceived together, and I did the poem at the same time as I did this portrait of the flat iron, in a kind of a mixed media shape. And so I got all the things right. Unfortunately, there's a typo in it, where I wrote Pacific instead of Atlantic. I have no idea why. But anyway, my mother bequeathed me her mother's flat iron. No bigger than a baby shoe, but a cast iron brick of a thing. Its crust bronzed by 70 years of rust. CK, said the name stamp. €6, said eBay. Back when it was barely a relic yet, an I-07, she carried it with us from South Africa as the toss of the sea passage that bisected our lives from exile into penury, buffeted and exhilarated us. So that when at 96 she died saying, take this, I took it over the Atlantic to lie by our hearth with the andirons, as it sat once by an earlier fire, to be pressed to a dress my mother danced in or wore for her first kiss. I had a lovely mummy, my mum used to sigh, as I had also. May my PC and my camera, when they too are junked old tech, have served so well to stave from the swell and the buffeting fall of things, some sigil of who I've loved.
Beautiful.
So those are two examples. Mostly though, these are like this because they're on a photographer's website, so they take a little bit more risk of the photography, perhaps. But most of the time, the poems accompany a photograph in a more strict one-on-one way. And I don't know if I have time for it, if I'll wait for an open mic, but there's a third link which I put up from my email, which I don't know if it'll work that way, but if we can at least have a look at it, maybe.
Absolutely. We don't have as many people here for the open mic as the number who had signed up. So
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just getting a message in the chat, and we have until 8:30, and I think maybe 3 people
yeah.
wanted to read in the open mic. I think we should be able to do that. So I'll go ahead and put that up.
This is closer to what I was originally gonna share, so at least to look at it, you know. Or this is one of the 2 pieces I was originally gonna do. But I don't mind waiting till the end of the open mic.
It said it could not be loaded, but I don't really know why.
Okay, well, let's go.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that then. So I was just looking for the right screen here.
And what I'll do, Kathy, is I'll just sort of email it to you or something.
That'd be great. And then I can, as long as it's something I can open, I can send that out to the group.
Yeah.
And actually, in addition to those people who are here right now, I'll send it to the people there were some people who signed up for the open mic, but, had to cancel, and some that just aren't here. So I'm going to put the open mic list that I originally had in the chat, and we can go in that order. Although, like I said, there will be people to skip. Okay, so Steve told me he was having computer issues. This seems to be the season for computer issues. Eric Forsberg, I'm not seeing. Lee Wood, you are here. Yes.
I'm here.
Woodman, I don't know.
That's
My
okay.
apologies.
Close enough.
Okay.
Okay, So I am Lee Woodman, and oh my gosh, I've enjoyed this so much. And Kathy, thank you for inviting me to come and to read tonight. I really appreciate that.
Thank
I'm
you.
a 45-year resident of DC, but I've been away in New York for 2 years, hiding out during COVID with my family. And now I'm back and I'm so delighted. Anyway, I'm the author of 4 poetry collections, and my latest one happens to be ekphrastic. It's called Artscapes. I don't know if that looks backwards to you, but anyway,
Good.
I'd like to share a screen and read 2 poems. They're each 1 page, quite short, and they actually go together in an interesting way. I've always been absolutely enamored of art, dance, drama, and music, and I came to poetry late, although during my career, I was a writer in radio and television, and I worked in museums for many, many years, particularly the Smithsonian. But I have always been intrigued by staring at artworks, whether they're in major museums or small galleries or on the street. And in my book, there's actually poems inspired by music and dance, as well as visual arts. But I'm reading 2 poems related to each other, visual arts, and I'm going to share a screen now to show you. Okay, I just have to minimize that to find them here. Okay. So many of you will recognize this, Danse by Henri Matisse. It's at MoMA. And the first poem is called Conundrum. Light comes from behind, illuminating a mural in motion. 5 audacious nudes, straight black hair, float weightlessly into emerald green, cerulean blue. Attached and unattached, bound in rhythms of relentless circles. Unclear as to who leads and who follows. It doesn't matter. One pushes, one reaches, others glance down. A painter no longer needs to be preoccupied by details. Fling the color, hue the gesture, heed the orchestra, toss tradition, liberate the farandole. It's just a sketch. Murmurs of Modigliani, shades of Stravinsky sneak in. The music hastens, violins beat like frantic footsteps, flutes blow elongated bodies into sinuous whirling. Like recurring dreams, strangers and places meld in the 6th sense. Earth or cloud, ocean or sky, family or stranger, who cares? Worries infiltrate these unknown maidens cast in a spell. Wait, it does matter. We must give ear. Bacchanalia, ode to joy, mock abduction or trance. These figures keep orbiting, convinced they can save each other, wrapped in dance.
Nice.
Then I go to the second one, and this fascinated me because Matisse made his in 1909, and here is a quite similar painting done by Gabrielle Wijaja in 2020, having just graduated from art school. Her name is Indonesian, but her family is mixed. She has a Chinese background. And I thought it was fascinating what she brought with her knowledge of the history of art to this work. Something seems familiar after Gabriel Wijaja's Dance, 2020. Henri Matisse's figures Dance au Naturel. Wijaja takes the canon west to east. Demoiselles in colorful graphics gracefully complete the circle. Clasping hands, they pass tall groundswells. Dressed in red chipao, they perform a dance nouvelle and slyly reclaim heritage, profound and bittersweet. Henri Matisse's figure, Dance au Naturel. Wijaja takes the canon west to east. With humor, she calls her artworks gentle oriental, eager to taste, infuse her kindred background, Chinese. Sans apology, she appropriates with glee. Her group of femme fatale prance parallel, standing on shoulders of those who danced au naturel. We've seen this before. 5 women clutching hands dance near the shore. Volcanoes erupt in the ocean nearby with waves swirling around, propelled by the force. But wait, the dancers are wearing traditional dress, their hair up in buns. Is this a painting? Or a print that is numbered, a stamp of Chinese? I search for a form and realize at once all art is wild capture. All life is pre-learned. What we have read has been written before. What we hear now are recomposed scores. And yet, all reimagined, so fresh and so new, astonishing remnants spurt masterful bloom.
Very nice. I love the connection between those two. That was wonderful.
Okay, let's see if I can get back to you all.
And then Tanuta, I'm gonna go next. I think you're still muted.
Oh, say it again.
Oh, I was calling on Danuta and she was still muted. Yes, thank you.
All right. So my name is Danuta Kosicka. I'm a poet, writer, poetry translator, and have a lot of poems about art, all kinds of art. I also am a photographer, and actually the 2 books of mine that were published 2015, they both have covers with my art. It's a collage and it's just a photograph. And I also do a little bit of acrylic painting, but I mean, nothing big. And it's also on the cover of a book by Lydia Kosk with my translation. So that's my, that's just a little bit. And I thought, you know, I have a lot of poems about that, but this one wanted to be read. So you have to listen to your poems, right? If they wanted to. It's called The Thin Blue Line Between Still and Alive, short poem. As a background, my accent is Polish, meaning I came from Poland in 1980 as a scientist. I have PhD in biochemistry. So at one point when martial law was imposed in Poland, I had to kind of make a decision. And that poem is a little bit about that as well. And then there you will hear a word Mazovian. This is part of Poland in the middle, flat, where I come from, where Warsaw is. The thin blue line between still and alive. In the art gallery, students create moving paintings. They stand or sit by their chosen portrait on the wall. Same pose, same splendid costume. Here a blue sash, a sword, there a yellow rose. At the strike of one, they stare, casually walk away, leaving the background and the still selves. I come alive on the background of a jet plane, pierced with rows of doors. The farthest opens on a sandy Mazovian plain with Chopin's Weeping Willow. My hand reaches through the door, brings out a clover leaf, lilac flower, grain of sand, a walnut from the tree guarding the whitewashed house. I glanced ahead and back again. Step by step, I move on. Thank you. It was such a pleasure to meet all of you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kat.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this. You all, I just want to make sure we didn't miss anybody. Nobody else wanted to read. Okay. I just want you to know that I was so excited about planning this. And as I selected the 6 of you features to contact, after we got it settled and I made the poster, I started thinking of more people who would be great in an opportunity like this. And so, in fact, one of them, originally I had asked Carolyn Kreider-Ferranda, and she was having surgery today, and I hope everything went well. I'm hoping that we can set up another one in August with 6 different people featured, but also an open mic. So I'll keep you all informed and see if that will work out. It'll be the earlier part of August, I think, at this point. So I want to thank you all, and Angela, I want to thank you for running the Zoom. I couldn't do it without you because I don't have the extended, unless I did it in 2 sessions, which is okay for a meeting, but I don't particularly like that option for a reading. I'll use it if I need to at some point, but thank you all. I'm also, we're pretty much out of time, but I wanted to mention also that I might share something the next time. And I'd also like to share something of my daughters the next time. So I'll either do that and kind of combine the 2 of us into, one of the main readers, or just add to the open mic. But I just loved everything that you all shared today, and the poems were so diverse and yet beautiful in their own way. And I can say the same for the artwork. So I hope you all will take advantage of saving the chat and, looking a little bit further into the poets and artists' work, and try some new, combinations of poetry and art. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
And Angela, if you'll save the chat, not the chat, if you'll save the recording and send it my way, we'll post it on the Poetry Society website, but also send it out to the people who either were here or intended to be here, and we'll send it out in some of the region newsletters as well.
Of course.
Thank you all so much, and I hope the open mic readers will come again.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.